working at a company, you have to be an employee to understand what it's like to be an employee. And that's a very common experience that most people make. Very few people make that experience of starting a company, right? That's like always a very abstract kind of concept. And, you know, companies are also this like kind of abstract thing. You know, they're not something physical, right? That you can like, you know, grab or something. But like, it's just an absolutely interesting experience. And I think for me, I thought it was like funny. I wasn't upset that it takes so long because I think that's very similar. I'm from Austria, and so it's very similar there. Also in Germany, it takes like weeks to get a bank account. It takes weeks to like incorporate a company. It's very different from the US where you like go on a website like Stripe, for example, has Stripe Atlas where you can click a few buttons and it will incorporate a company for you and give you a bank account within like an hour. And
that's
then you have like, you actually have your company set up, right? And it's like this artificial thing that just like you click a button on the internet. That's, as a person in tech, that makes so much sense to me. So going away from like, you know, I had lived in the US before. I have never incorporated a company there, but then coming here and then you have to get like your registered Hanko, like the stamp. And then we had this like really funny coincidence where when my wife and I got married, I took her name. So we got married in Austria and I changed my name, my legal name. And so I got a really nice Hanko from my mother-in-law that had Nakazawa using the kanji on the Hanko. And so I had been using that stamp for like, you know, different things in Japan since we had moved here. And then I realized I had to register it. That's something I never did before. So you have to go to the ward office and then you show them your stamp, you like, you know, make a few samples, and then you get a stamp registration card so that and also a stamp certificate that says that this stamp belongs to you. And the next time you need that certificate again, instead of bringing the stamp, you bring the card. Yeah, which is, it's all really like funny to experience that. But then the funniest thing to me was like, I brought that stamp and they were like saying, well, your name is Nakazawa and the stamp says Nakazawa, but they're obviously not the same. Because one of them was using kanji, but my name is written Nakazawa in Romaji, or in, you know, regular alphabet. And so we had to like, my wife and I, we like looked at Google Maps and we're like, okay, who can, you know, make a new Hanko like really fast? Like, and then within an hour or so, we went to that shop, got a new Hanko, went back to the ward office, registered that stamp. And so that is all like, incorporating a company is just this like really fun process. It's a bit exhausting, but it's something you have to do. And then you're like, you get all these documents and it's like, okay, now I have a company. And it's nothing is different about your life than before, but like you have a company. And the thing that really matters after that is the meaning that you give to that company, right?
So you had that paper and you, like you said, something changes a little bit. You suddenly own an intangible entity called a company. Yeah. And you have to do something with it, right? So how did your feelings change suddenly, where this project that you had been coding on for fun and that you started to really enjoy was transposed into this intangible asset that you were now holding on paper, and you were like, okay, now I have to do something even more with this?
Yeah, no, this is a fantastic question, because this is everything there happened at the same time. I knew I was going to quit my job. And then obviously you also need to be employed somewhere that you have health insurance, or, you know, it's not necessary, but you don't want to be unemployed. You know, all this kind of stuff you want to just have figured out, right? So having a company to, you know, take care of like your annual health check, you know, like that sort of stuff that you have to do in Japan, like it all makes sense, right? But then at the same time also, I found a publisher for the video game through a mutual friend. So Athena Crisis being published by a new games publisher called Null Games. Okay. And they are really awesome to work with. So all of that stuff happened together, and then, you know, we were going to sign an agreement, but I didn't have a company, and then it takes so many weeks in Japan to sign the company, and then banks were failing in the US, and like, you know, where my publisher is based, and that was all like 1 year ago, and it was like all madness like in that period of time.
That's when all the companies were the game companies were laying off people.
Yeah, there were like layoffs in the tech world. Like everything was kind of like really crazy in that time. And so for me, the thing that really changed from like before, where I'm like, hey, I'm just doing this kind of like cope with like life and what things are going on around me, was, oh, this is like a real thing, right? Like it's so weird because, yeah, you said it's intangible. It's like you just get a piece of paper that says, you know, here's a company name and like a stamp and like a number, and that's yours, right? But then everything changed in terms of, okay, now I have to give meaning to this company, and I'm changing from like building this game for fun as like a recreational thing to, hey, I'm actually going to publish this game on like all the platforms, like, you know, on iPhone, on Steam, which is like a games platform. And I'm going to turn this into something serious, you know, and like I had to change from this, like, I'm doing this for fun to be much more pragmatic of like, how do I actually ship this to people now? And so everything, like, in some sense, nothing changes, but in the other, like, everything really changed because I thought, okay, now this is real.